Okay, today we are going to learn about the history of writing Penang Hokkien. Pertama cik I put everything away properly. Everybody is ready?
Yes.
Okay, everybody is ready. So let's get started. Today I want to explain to you the history of writing Penang Hokkien. So today is not so much grammar lesson, but rather a history lesson. And with this history lesson, you will be able to understand better why we do what we do, why we are writing this way right now. So, if you look into the history of writing for Chinese, the history of writing Penang Hokkien goes back actually to the missionaries. You know, in the 19th century, and actually even before that, the Spanish and the Dutch all have attempted to find a way to Romanize Hokkien, but it was the missionaries who started the writing system. And this happens like this. As you know, in China, people speak different types of Chinese languages. But the missionaries do not know that. When they arrive, they discover, oh, something very interesting. The Chinese living here speak a different dialect. When they go to a certain different province, they speak a different dialect. And the strange thing is, the Chinese in different places are not able to communicate among themselves in spoken way. You cross a mountain and you go to the next valley, and the Chinese in the next place cannot communicate with the one over there because they all speak different dialects. But strangely, they are able to write, understand written Chinese together. So what is that so? The missionaries discovered that the Chinese people actually speak differently from how they write. The writing system for Chinese has been around static, no change, not much changes for over almost 2,000 years. They have been using classical Chinese to write all the way until the early part of the 20th century, whereas the spoken language continued to evolve. And because people are separated by mountains, by valleys, dialects start to appear. So much so that different communities speak different languages. And where Hokkien comes from, which is the Fujian province, Fujian province is a very mountainous country. And in this mountainous country, because the people are quite isolated one from the other, they have developed different varieties of Hokkien or dialects of Hokkien. The main ones are the ones from Zhangzhou and the one from Quanzhou. So the Zhangzhou and the Quanzhou varieties are the main type of Hokkien that is spoken. And in addition to that, in Fujian province itself are other languages spoken. Hakka is also spoken there, as well as Hokkien is also spoken. In fact, the capital of Fujian province is where the city of Fuzhou is located. And in Fuzhou, they don't speak Hokkien, they speak Hokkien. And in neighboring Guangdong province, there is cousin languages or dialect like Teochew, which is bears a lot of similarities to Hokkien, but is in the neighboring province of Guangdong. But the curious thing is that even though the Chinese people all speak different dialects or languages, they were able to communicate in writing when they among themselves. And so the missionaries try to find out what's going on, and they discover something called a diglossia. I'm going to write down here. Diglossia means how the Chinese people speak is different from how they write. They speak their spoken language, such as, for example, Hokkien. Hokkien is a largely oral language, and even throughout the 20th century, it continues to be an oral language. However, when they need to write, the Chinese people use literary Chinese, which is the same form of writing system that is shared among all the Chinese people. So, all the Chinese people throughout China, they are able to understand written communication using literary Chinese. And so, until the early 20th century, literary Chinese is the way the Chinese communicate in writing.
That's also known as classical Chinese, right?
Yes.
The literary Chinese is also known as classical Chinese.
Correct, right? Yes. Literary Chinese is classical Chinese. In a way, I can say almost is classical Chinese. So this is before Mandarin. This is before Mandarin. So before Mandarin, there is one form of writing, and the writing is different from the spoken word. And because of that, for example, for Hokkien people, that's how we have in present day. I told you last week that there is colloquial pronunciation and literary pronunciation. Because they speak one way.
That's why when I go to a Hokkien church, I cannot understand what they're saying.
Correct. Yeah, when you go to Hokkien church, sometimes you cannot understand what they are saying because of two things. One is that they are possibly using literary Chinese. However, they are pronouncing it in Hokkien. In fact, I have a Bible in Hokkien, and it is a Bible that is written in literary Chinese. So this is how it came to be. So when the missionaries discovered that, they decided that we need to create a writing system so that the spoken word can be written down. And so the earliest form of writing for in the present modern age is the one that was created by the missionaries. And it goes back to around 1820 to 1835 when the first Hokkien dictionary was created, or rather Hokkien writing system. And because it was created by the missionaries, we call it today as church romanization. And if you are learning Penang Hokkien with me, you often hear I use the word church romanization to explain about the earliest form of romanization that is used for writing the oral Hokkien that the people are speaking. Because they speak one way, they otherwise write in Chinese and a different way. So the missionary tried to find a system where the oral spoken way can be romanized and create into a writing system so that they can use it to deliver the message. And this church romanization is also known as Pak Wei Ji. Pak Wei Pet Oi Ji. This is in Hokkien, or rather in Penang Hokkien, I will write it as Pet Wa Ji. This is in Taiji. In Taiji, it will be Pet Wa Ji or Pet Oi Ji. And the word Pet Wa or
white speech
Pet Oi means colloquial. Why do you say colloquial? It means the oral spoken form of Hokkien, as opposed to the formal written form of Hokkien that the people have been using all along. So that is the earliest form of writing system, common type of writing system. And Pet Oi Ji is, since the early part of the 19th century until today, has become the most common form. That
one is following the Taiwanese pronunciation, right?
It's the other way around. The Taiwanese pronunciation is following this. Yeah, the Taiwanese is actually following this. So this was before the Taiwanese come along. So after this one, Pet Oi Ji was continued to be developed and other dictionaries are created. Just to give you an idea, I want to show you a dictionary in Pet Oi Ji. Can you see this?
No, we only see. Okay, now it's okay. Now I can see.
I'm like, are you able to see this on the screen?
Yes, but it's a bit small.
It's a bit small, tiny. I'll try to enlarge it. This is the dictionary. This is the dictionary. And you will see this is the writing system that they created for Pet Oi Ji. So this is from the 19th century. There are a few important dictionary that was created. In 1883, there's the McGowan Dictionary. In 1899, there is the Douglas Dictionary. So these are the early ones before modern age. And at that time, you see, if you look at the word Pet Oi Ji itself, they use all sorts of diacritic marks, like this one and this one, which present day I find that it's very difficult for people to write that way, because at that time most people do not have typewriters and there wasn't any need to write anything down. I mean, to type anything, so they can create a writing system with all sorts of strokes, which in modern day is difficult for us to use if we were to communicate using our handphone and so on. So that's why when I created Taiji, I changed all these signs into numbers. And so it can become a system that any keyboard and any keypad can type it out. But we are going progressive into the modern age right now, and this is Pet Oi Ji. And just quickly, I will show you another Hokkien dictionary. This is McGowan Dictionary. This is the McGowan Dictionary. This is one of my favorite one because it has words in English. So I can look up words in English and see how it looks like with Chinese characters, and also this is in Pet Oi Ji. And this is the precursor to what the Taiwanese is doing. Okay, that's good. Meeting has been upgraded, so we can continue. So this is how Pet Oi Ji is written. And now, but most of the time, when the Chinese people write, they continue to use either literary Chinese until the early 20th century when modern Mandarin came into being. And modern Mandarin is based on the language of the Mandarin. The Mandarin are the ones who have been communicating throughout China. They are the bureaucrats and they are the one residing in Beijing. And so their language is used to become the modern Mandarin that we know today. And what is different is that for the first time ever, with the creation of modern Mandarin, Chinese language can be read as well as it is spoken. So this is something very different, which a lot of people don't appreciate with modern Mandarin. Before modern Mandarin was introduced, the Chinese people speak one way but write a different way. And if you are not, if you don't have, how do I say? If you don't understand literary Chinese, you are not able to read. Because the reading language is different from the speaking language. But with the creation of modern Mandarin, for the first time, the spoken language and the writing language become the same language. But as for Hokkien, by the 21st century, in Taiwan, there is a movement to emphasize their own identity. And so that's why they want to popularize Hokkien once again as their language. And with that, they created their writing system. And the writing system that they created is based on Pedagogy. They created it somewhere around 2008 after a few different types of writing systems has been created. They created something which I call the Taiwanese Romanisation, or in Taiwanese Hokkien it is written as Taiwan So Taiwan Lomaji, or also called as Tai Lo. So you see, all this one use diacritic marks, all the accent marks and grave and so on marks in the writing.
Your typing of the diacritic marks, is it built into Word or Windows, or is it something
it's built into Word right now. It's built into Word. Oh. Yeah, it's built into Word. So that I am able to type the diacritic marks immediately according to what I want to write. So this is Taiwan Lomaji, which is Taiwan Romanization, or Tai Lo. Tai Lo is the short form for Taiwan Lomaji. So this is what
it sounds funny because I know some Cantonese also.
It sounds funny, huh?
Yeah. But I see where it came from. It's from Taiwan Lomaji.
Yeah. So maybe you have heard of Tai Lo before. Yeah, and I know it sounds very Cantonese, right? It sounds very Cantonese, yeah. But that Tai Lo
sounds like the short form big fellow in Cantonese.
And this is they created Taiwanese Romanization to simplify on church Romanization, because some of the writing system for church Romanization is very difficult to write. Like, for example, let me see. It has, I think, let's see what. Oh no, that's it has letter like this. It has a letter like this. It has a letter like this. 0 with a dot. They have a 0 with a dot, and they have things like superscript N in church Romanization, which is very problematic to write. So they simplify it, but they still retain the diacritic marks. And because they retain the diacritic marks, I find that it is very difficult for local people or people who are not educated in it to understand. So when I want to create a writing system for Penang Hokkien, I base it on our education system, on our knowledge of English, on Malay, and on Mandarin. And so,
But the diacritic marks actually resemble the Han Pinyin diacritic marks.
no,
right?
it does not resemble the Han Pinyin diacritic marks. Do you know Han Pinyin? I'm going to go through the diacritic marks right now to show you how the diacritic marks for Church Romanization and Taiwanese Romanization look like. So I'm going to start with simple PA, Pa, and I will correspond it to Taiji Romanization. This is Pa. The one on this side will always be Church Romanization and Taiwanese Romanization. Both of them are almost the same because all the diacritic marks for Church and Taiwanese Romanization are the same. And Taiji Romanization is a total departure because I do away with all the diacritic marks and I replace it with numbers. So Pa is PA1. Pa is written like this. This is Pa. Where does all the sound come from? Do you hear that? I wonder where. Would you, if you are not talking, would you mind muting yourself, please? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So this is Pa. Pa has this circumflex accent above it. Pa. And then Pa. Pa. There are two types. This one is Pa. And sometimes you have seen in Taiji Romanization, I write 3-3. That is Pa like that. So you can see a stroke across at the top is Pa, like this in Taiji Romanization. So with Taiji Romanization, all the diacritic marks have been replaced by numbers. And the last one is Pa. Is this one. So Pa, 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 and Pa. Pa, 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 and Pa. And this is not it, not all. Also, if there are checked syllables. Checked syllables are syllables that end with H, K, T, or P. It is different. And I need to explain for a moment what is checked syllables. Checked syllables are syllables that stops the sound. Like for example, you say ba, it stops. In comparison to fricatives are sound that is dragged on, like his, house, and so on. When the sound drags, it's not a checked syllable, it's an unchecked syllable. In Hokkien, when you have checked syllables, it follows a different rule already. And this is one of them. I am giving you this PAH. Maybe Jessie, I want to hear you guess. How do you pronounce this? PAH.
Me?
Yeah.
Pa.
Huh?
Pa.
Pa. Okay, you say Pa. Ian, how do you pronounce this?
Oh, Pa. Timothy, there's people writing questions in the chat. I don't know if you realize.
Okay, I have to look.
I think Yi Phong ai mùi mì kia hả?
Yeah, Mimi Kia.
Yi Phong ai mùi không PA3 and PA33 are pronounced again.
They are pronounced the same. I think because I can't go to chat at the moment, I would encourage people to appear here and ask me directly. So PA3 and PA33 are pronounced the same way. However, they behave differently. in our tone sounding lesson last time, I mentioned that if you see 33, it means it doesn't change the tone. If you see only one letter syllable, it means it undergoes tone sounding. Remember, 1 and 2 becomes 3, 3 and 4 becomes 1. And 3, 3 remains the same. Now, this one, PAH is actually pronounced like this. Pa. This is pa. Like sapa. Pa. Is PAH, but it's pronounced pa. And this is one of the reasons why I'm not using Church or Taiwanese romanization, because our education system based on English and Malay would not produce the accurate pronunciation if you are not taught how to pronounce it.
Just that to be taught how to pronounce Hanyu pinyin, otherwise you get it completely wrong.
Yes, the same also with Hanyu pinyin. And again, this is not Hanyu pinyin because the diacritic marks that you see here, when you compare with Hanyu pinyin, it's the other way around.
It's the other direction, yeah.
Yes. So you have to be aware that this is not Hanyu pinyin. If you want to read Church romanization or Taiwanese romanization, you have to learn it all over again. You have to discard what you know about Hanyu pinyin, because this was created long before Hanyu pinyin. This was created.
And also because Taiwan hates China.
So this is how you write this. But what if you want to get this sound, PAK1, the PAH on its own, you see, no diacritic marks, but it's pa, 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 pa. But what about PAK1, pa? How do you write this? Right, pa, not pa, pa. To write pa, pa like that, it is this. So this one is pa. This one is pa. Pa and pa. So, although this one on its own without anything is pa 1, when there is a check syllable behind it, it becomes a different sound altogether already.
Oh, that's confusing.
This is confusing. This is confusing, and this is why I thought that it's going to be a disaster if Church or Taiwanese romanization is rolled out onto the Penang public. There are people who are enthusiasts of using Church or Taiwanese romanization and to popularize writing Penang Hokkien. But most of the Penang Hokkien speaking people are illiterate of any form of writing system. And so they wouldn't know what is going on. And they are absolutely going to mispronounce this. So this one is actually pronounced as pa, pa. And how about if I were to write like this itself? This itself is actually pronounced pa, pa, pa. If you see a K, it's pronounced pak, pak. So this is how the Church and Taiwanese romanization are written. And for words or PO is po, but POO, this is in Taiwanese romanization. You can write Taiwanese as POO. Iza. If you are familiar with Taiwanese romanization, can you read this for me? What is POO?
POO.
You're muted.
Huh? Again?
Ber. Is it ber?
Robin, would you like to give it a try? What is POO?
Ball.
Again?
Ball.
You are right. You are right. It is ball. Ball. In
Paw
fact,
as
paw
paw
is
as
paw
in
is
as
paw.
in nutritious.
Paw, like paw hui, paw. This is in
哦，这真正煲，这物件真正煲啊！
not paw, not paw, not paw, but paw. If you want to write paw, if you want to
哦
write
煲
paw,
哦煲
then you have
apple
to write it
apple
this way. P O. That is paw. Paw. This is paw. And if you ask Malaysian this, they are going to say poo.
Yeah.
P-O-O as poo. It's not poo, it's paw.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's not poo here, it's paw. So this is Taiwanese romanization, and it's worse if you see it as church romanization. Church romanization will write it like this. Like this. They'll write it like this. So this is also paw. So they write it with a dot. So all this, I have changed it to something that Malaysians are more likely to pronounce correctly. According to our system of education, or our knowledge of English and Malay. So this is how it's pronounced. The next one is nasal. Yes, yeah.
I have a question. So meaning the PTHK for the Penang Hokkien, it becomes missing, is it, gradually?
Again, can you repeat slowly? I need to understand your question.
So do you mean like the earlier part you said the PTHK, the sound like park, PTHK.
PTHK. Okay. The earlier part, this one.
Yeah. So it's now missing or no longer in the Penang Hokkien?
Oh, it's
because
in
of
Penang
education
Hokkien, but different letters are representing these sounds. So, for example, what they use H for in Taiji Romanisation is represented by the K. The H is represented by the K. The K is represented by the RK because of how closely it resembles. If you look at this word, it looks like park, like parking the car, park. It's the same sound as the parking the car, park. So with tone 3, it's park. It's park. And this one is not pa, it's pa. That's in pakcik. This one is like the pa in pakcik. Pakcik. So it's like writing pakcik, but instead of writing with a K, you write with a H. So all these are the check syllables. That means the syllables at the end of the syllable. And finally, nasalization. Nasalization is like the difference between sand is kia, mirror is kia. So this is how I write nasalization in Taiji Romanisation. So in Taiji, I add an N here. So kia becomes kia. So this kia is a nasalized syllable. Kia is not a nasalized syllable. So this is not nasalized. This one is nasalized. In Taiwanese, they don't write like this. They write like this. This one is kia. So instead of putting the N here, they put double N here. Which also actually, you can say makes sense. It's like kia. So kia. So they put it here. Where else? Church Roman, this is Taiwanese. And in Church Romanization, they write it like this. they write like this.
Hmm.
So they put a superscript N to it. And all this makes writing very, very difficult because the writing system was created when people still write. When you write things using a pen, you can put anything you like. But when you are limited to the letters in a keypad, that is very difficult to type all these things. So that is why in this lesson, I want to show you how we progress to getting Taiji Romanization, where all the syllables are stripped of all the diacritic marks and superscript and all the funny characters like this one. Or this one. This one doesn't exist in French or German or anything. This is unique to Hokkien. And
it's amazing. It's in Unicode.
yes, yeah, it's Unicode. And so if you look at other peoples where they do understand Taiwanese romanization, and as you know, you might know that there are people who are trying to attempting to create a writing system for Penang Hokkien based on Taiwanese romanization, and then you will see all these marks appear, and with this, yeah, you are able to, from today's lesson, you'll be able to understand how to pronounce all this. So, like this one again, this is pa, 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 and pa. This one is pa, pa. This one is pa, pa. This one is pak. No, pa, 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 pa. This one is pa. This one is pa. If you want to put with a 1 like this, you need to write P and the letter with the stroke at the top. This one is park. Park as in to time.
Oh, park. Okay.
Park.
Okay. Park.
This one is
yeah, when you put the meaning, then I suddenly know what you're talking about.
yeah. Suddenly, you can see what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
Po as in chow po. Chow po. Chow po. Po. Chow po. Po. Not enough? Add some more. Po. Po. Po, 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 po. And this one is kia.
Your pa. Can you put the English at the back? I know the first one is father and then slap.
You are talking about
and
this
then
one? Pa.
Yeah.
Father. Pa. Slap. Pa.
Oh, pa. Okay.
Slap.
Pa. Oh.
Pa. I can't think of anything for this one. Pa.
Oh, pa. Okay, pa. Jak pa.
Thank you.
Jak pa. Pa. Jak pa.
Yes, my daughter just say she knows that word. Jak pa.
Pa. So, this is for today's lesson.
They're like, they're already struggling with Mandarin, want to teach Hokkien some more.
So, this is just to give you an idea, a glimpse into going backwards in history. And at times, you will come across Hokkien written with all those diacritic marks. And when you see those diacritic marks, I hope it will now make sense to you where it comes from and how it is pronounced. If ever you come across words written using the diacritic marks and you are not sure how to pronounce it, we can discuss it in a future lesson and you'll get to know it better. But for our communication among ourselves, I continue to encourage people to learn to use Taiji Romanization because it's the easiest to write. You can write using any keyboard, any keypad, and you can communicate in whether it's WhatsApp or Telegram or Facebook. without having to bother about how to put all these different marks on it. And so that's it for today's lesson.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any question? Anything you might want to know?
question.
Yes.
How to
ask.
say I don't know in Indonesian?
I don't know, huh?
Mom Jai.
Oh, Jai.
What
Oh,
that?
Jai.
What bị hiếu?
What be here depends on what you're trying to.
What Jai, what bị hiếu?
Tak faham atau tak tahu?
Tak tahu.
What Jai?
Mom Jai.
What
be hiao?
What be hiao? See, this is how you will write it. What be hiao? And if you don't know, I know.
What Jai?
And
Actually,
what
what
be hiao?
Jai is saya tak tahu. What be here is saya tak boleh. Or saya tak tahu buat.
What inside is saya tak tahu ah. What be hiao?
Robin, I think we are getting background from you, I think.
Be hiao.
Thanks.
Tak tahu buat. Something like that. Yes. And so you will see that in Taiji Romanization, you can create words by joining syllables together. This is one thing which is different from Church or Taiwanese Romanization. You will see in Taiwanese and Church Romanization, they always hyphen everything. They will hyphen everything together to split up the syllables. But because in Taiji Romanization, every syllable ends with numbers. So you don't need to split the syllables up anymore. Any more questions?
Thank you.
Anything else?
We have this word file.
Hi, team.
Okay, I will send out this word file now. Okay, I'll see you again.
Thank
Okay,
you.
JJ, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. I'm going to stop share now. Okay, see you again.
Vâng.